Well, thank you for having us. We're excited to have a discussion today about the state of entertainment here in North Florida. So I'm going to just kind of go down the line real quick. I want everybody to just give a quick intro about themselves, let them tell you how they broke into this industry, kind of what they do on a day-to-day. Jeremy, I'm going to just start with you.
Is my mic working? There we go. Thank you. We have the technical team up here, so we're all set. My name's Jeremy LaRochelle. I oversee music for Virgin Voyages. No, we don't have a ship here out of Jacksonville, but I work a lot with Niko, and I spend a lot of time here, so I'm here to kind of share my insights.
Thanks, Jeremy. Les?
Les Targonski. I spent 13 years with Danny Wimmer Presents. I'm not sure if any of you knew Welcome to Rockville that we used to do here in Jacksonville. We moved that festival down to Daytona, turned it into a 4-day, 50,000 a day festival, definitely grew the festival. I left after 13 years last year, started my own LLC, Black Cypress Events, currently doing assistant production manager for Ice Cube and front of house engineer. Actually, a good one that just landed in my lap last week. I'm actually going out with Post Malone and then working on some other projects with some other partners and trying to develop a new business model. Instead of the big company making all the money, we're trying to make all the money.
Thinking bold.
Like Ice Cube says, let's make money together.
All right. Drew?
Hey, everybody. I'm Drew Lynch. I'm a talent buyer at RTEAM. I started off a while now ago, but artist management, and then moved into a little bit of lightweight tour management down in Orlando. Moved back home to Tampa and spent some time with Gasparilla Music Foundation. They have a festival they put on every year and was doing their event operations there. All the while working with Niko as a talent buyer, doing some booking coordinating initially, and then moving on into doing our talent buying locally as well as across the globe. We work internationally with Jeremy and work with quite a few different clients across the United States.
Thanks, Drew. KaMillion?
Hi, everyone. I'm KaMillion. I am from the north side of Jacksonville, Florida. Started my career now in Jacksonville doing talent shows and just getting involved in anything that I could. Now I'm an actress. I have a television show on HBO Max. It's called Rap Shit, produced and created by Issa Rae. Also am an independent artist who independently major, I like to say, who just kind of took social media and turned it into a success story for myself. And I'm also the brand owner of MHMA, which is Make Hoes Mad Again, that teaches you not to shrink yourself when you walk into a room. So yeah, and I'm happy to be on the panel today with these guys.
Thanks for jumping on with us.
At least we have one star.
I know. Making this panel cool. So I want to start off. I want each of you to give your current perspective on the entertainment scene in North Florida in just 3 words. So, KaMillion, I'm going to start back down with you and make our way back towards myself. I want you guys to describe the state of entertainment in North Florida with just 3 words.
I got one.
Up and coming.
All right. I like that.
Okay, well, let me think here. What I was gonna say. I'll go with vibrant.
That's okay.
Well,
One word.
I'm going even less.
A major gap.
Lots of opportunity.
Yes. Yes.
Say that? A lots of opportunity.
Lots of opportunity. Lots.
Oh, lots.
Lots. L-O-T-S.
So I'm going to start with Drew. I've got a question for you. Your role is integral to the live music scene here in North Florida. For those of you that are in the crowd, I want you to just explain what a talent buyer is, kind of what your day looks like, just to give us a good footing and what that looks like.
Yeah, no problem. So I am lucky to say that every day for me is a little different depending on the projects that I'm working on. I'll go through a typical talent buy, but in 2 words, I'm essentially a music broker, to kind of put it differently. But we'll basically start off with our partners, our clients, identifying the type of music that they want to bring. First, kind of going through what their event is. Maybe there's a theme, style of music that they're looking for. Then we'll go ahead and I will then take my time and, either we automatically know who's going to be the best fit, or there's a little, research and development that goes into identifying who those best fits are going to be and looking for new talent for that event and for that client. Once we worked with our client to kind of get approvals and they give us the green light to engage in negotiations, we'll go ahead and take that step. And then from there, getting that talent locked in for the event. After the event, reconciling the event and making sure that everybody is, paid out and happy.
The key, paid out and happy. So Les, your 3 words said there's a gap. So I want to know, what sort of entertainment infrastructure is Jacksonville lacking, and where do you see the need for growth?
So it's interesting. So I just went to Australia a few weeks ago with Ice Cube, and the city actually invested in a venue there. It's an indoor venue, very similar to an amphitheater, not as large as an arena space. And I think having spaces like that allows these smaller tours to come in to where, look, at the end of the day, there's not always the Live Nation. There's not always the AEG. There's independent promoters that can't afford the big bill that want to bring these artists in. And I think that, having a space to do that allows it allows more things to come to Jacksonville. I'm 6 generations deep from Jacksonville. I love this town. This town is my heart. It always has been. And a lot of things have changed over time. And I think that having the city invested more in some of these spaces instead of, you've got Dailies, which is tied to the stadium. You've got St. Augustine Amphitheater, which is a whole different thing. That's now a 501c3, the way they're operating that now, because it was a county space. I think that getting the city more involved. If you want people to come to your city, you've got to kind of handhold it a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and KaMillion, I've got a question for you, kind of on the adverse side of things. How do you think your roots in Jacksonville and in North Florida have helped play into your success and the growth that you've seen in your own career?
I think just the spirit of Jacksonville is like by any means necessary, So for me, I broke into the industry in a very, very unconventional way, the independent route. And I had a great support community system that comes in very, very importantly as far as when you're looking for producers, managers, even just your fan base. Like, my fan base has sustained me. And I think that's the most important part of being an artist, because when all the other things go away, you still have your core support system. So for me, everybody that I came up with, I still interact with them and they still show support for me. So I think just having a really powerful foundation is really, really important. And I think people be happy when they see people from Jacksonville making it, Sometimes, they call us the crab pot. But at the end of the day, I feel like because the internet has just opened up so many doors, people just want to see people like you and me win, because it inspires us to let us know that I could do it too, So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the internet makes everything so much more obtainable, approachable. Like, there's that connection that we might have had or not had.
Right.
Pre-internet era, social media. So it's fascinating to see and exciting to see people like yourself being able to grow and come out of Jacksonville, because I think it inspires all of us to continue to do what we do as well. Jeremy, kind of on the flip side of things, what are some emerging trends for onboard entertainment, and how do you see those potentially influencing the broader entertainment landscape in North Florida?
I'm going to evade that question, and I'm going to share my thoughts on Jacksonville. I am not from here. No lie, I was sitting back there. You guys were talking about Duval. I had to Google it because I didn't know what that was. But I do come here. I do come here a lot. Because I work with Drew and I work with Niko, so I spend time in Jack's Beach. Niko's taking me all over the place. I see a lot of opportunity here. I work in the cruise industry. One of the first ships I worked on had 8,900 people on it. The town I came from to go to that ship had just over 7,000 people. Cruise ships are nothing more than a floating city at sea. They're a self-sustaining ecosystem. Before I worked on cruise ships, I came from Arizona, where I managed Indian gaming casinos properties there on sovereign land. Little communities in the desert. What I learned in both those situations is if you can cycle the dollar, everybody makes more money. And what Les is talking about, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think this makes sense, is we always think about big venues. You know, you have Jack Station. We always think about these big venues, but we never think about all the caps below them that fill that sustainability model. Remember, grassroots. Remember, it takes an artist 10,000 hours to achieve the level they need to perform in front of you. So as a community, especially at Jacksonville that's growing, and there's a lot of people that are thinking bold, there's opportunities here to build that grassroots effort from your 50 caps, the little bars where there's maybe a guitarist playing to your 200, 500, 625, 1200. We all see where this is going, right? So coming from a guy not from here, but who visits here and really digs the people, and I dig the communities that I'm seeing around here, I think there's opportunity in this land-based place. So sorry to evade that question, but
no, that's a great response. So, and it really is. There's so much truth in that the infrastructure that needs to be in place to sustain music as a whole and the community itself. You know, it starts with all of us going to shows, supporting local talent, and really being involved. And I think that's just the key that, you know, sometimes we see a great support for, but then other times lack. So, Drew, you know, what are some of the challenges from a talent buyer, you know, for a lot of festivals here in the market? What are some of the challenges that you see, you know, with bringing larger names to the market, or even really trying to navigate those waters as you know, we buy for, you know, headliners?
Yeah, you know, an obvious one is just our geographical location. You know, we're pinned right in between two already well-established major markets in Atlanta, and yes, radius clauses are a real pain. But you know, I think one of the other things that we kind of need to shift a little bit away from, more specifically here in Jacksonville, maybe not so much in the greater North Florida market, but a lot of our festivals are built on, you know, a freemium model. The GA tickets are free to enter. And then you're looking at tiered bot tickets from there. So, you know, trying to get name talent to come in, you just don't have the budget to do that because you're relying so heavily on your bar sales and sponsorship money. And unfortunately, that just limits the type of talent that you can bring in on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I know it's not my turn, but I want to tag off something.
Yeah, please do.
And that you're right on point, because I mean, even you know, in my time with DWP, you know, I mean, we're running 120 artists through a 4-day festival on 4 stages, and your talent budget is here. I'm not going to give you the numbers, but I've got them. And then now you've got to find a way to cover the cost of that talent budget, plus the production budget and the operations budget and all these things, the police, the security, the fence, the tents, all the things, the portalets, all the things, the comforts that are required. And it's interesting, man, because you really have to rely on the F&B and sponsors, you know, and and you nailed it on that, you know, with the F&B side, because the ticket sales alone don't pay the bills, you know, and especially if you want to remain relevant with ticket sales, to keep that cost to where you're going to bring people, because there's a fine line, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of you. Sure. There's a fine line. There's a number that I mean, like a $99 ticket's cool, but once you go $120, it's like, oh, I'm not buying that ticket. You know, and that's a real thing. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, and we even see it, I think, further down the chain. It's hard to get people sometimes to support, you know, a show at $10 or $15, which I think we as a market have kind of poisoned ourselves in a way, in the fact that we are used to quality for free. So we're not asserting that same value that we might see in another market, and you know, being willing to pay for that, and not realizing the kind of the economics that are behind, you know, what it is that goes into putting on a show, you know, big or small. So KaMillion, on kind of that note, you know, where have you seen the success in you know, any of your live shows? Like, what is, you know, how did you build that fan base, and like what contributed to that success in just, you know, your artistry?
I think what contributed to my success is I don't want to be broke. And this is what I saw myself doing for the rest of my life. You know, I don't know if you know, but most artists really can't support themselves on streams. You know, music is like, it's like the billboard. Like, hey, come check me out. This is what I have to offer. And that's why it's important for you to have your merch, something to sell, something tangible, a community that people can really tap into that can really sustain you and keep you afloat, because anybody can record a song on their phone. They can roll over on the bed. They don't even have to go to the studio anymore, you know? So for me, that was like the most important part for me, like to perform and to get a chance to look my fans in the face. And I have a bomb-ass personality. So when people meet me, they fall in love with me because I want to see who's streaming, who's downloading, and who I'm touching through my music. So I feel like people can see that it translates when I'm on stage, and they want to know and support anything that I have going on. So the fact that I didn't want to go back to being broke, that's my inspiration.
That's a key driver right there.
For real.
There's actually a name for that. So Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails coined this years ago. It's called Connect with Fans, Give them a Reason to Buy. And it's funny. It's actually a pretty simple model if you're an artist, if you can get it to happen. If you can get enough fans that are devoted to you, that are going to come buy a CD a year, they're going to come buy a shirt a year, they're going to come to your show a year. If you have 100,000 fans that are willing to spend $10 a year on you, you're sustaining yourself. But you have to do like KaMillion's doing. You have to connect with them and give them that reason to buy.
I started,
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, engaging, like even if you're not engaging with all of your fans, engaging with some of your fans on, let's say you do one show and you're engaging with 20 fans. And in this day and age, the way social media works, and now you have all these people hitting socials, and that word gets out that you're that type of person. You're that type of person that is appreciative of your fans, and you're engaging with those fans and putting yourself out there instead of you're too cool and hiding out in the dressing room and going to the hotel.
Authenticity,
and not
it's
putting the time in.
authenticity.
I mean, 34 years in the game, I've seen some artists walk away and like blow their fans off, and I'm like, you're an idiot.
yeah,
I mean, seriously, these are the people that are paying your
bills.
way. And if you shut them off, they're going to shut you off.
Right.
I want to open it up to the group. Being here in North Florida, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for growth within the entertainment landscape as a whole?
I'll just jump in and kind of get us started. Definitely one thing that we can do, and we're starting to see things come online, but we have a big venue space gap. So a lot of the options that we have, and even we're seeing a lot of the smaller spaces close up a little bit, but we're right around that 500 cap space, and then we jump up to a Daly's place or something. So trying to get some spaces in between that fill that gap, so that artist that's at that level can start to come through. We have Decca that just came online. It's about 2,000 cap space. We have the Block that's coming later this year. I'm sorry?
Is that the Club 5 space?
That is, but I think that's a little bit smaller space.
Okay. Yeah.
No, the Block is going to be in conjunction. It's presented by K9 Social, who's a dog bar here in Jacksonville downtown area. So.
Yeah, and I would agree too. It's just we're starting to see, I think, the revival. Like I got my start as a drummer in a band. I cut my teeth playing at Freebird Live and learning how to sell tickets and
sound guy there.
Yeah, and I had this terrible production manager and sound guy that. But I think there's a lack there of that in the market at this point. There's a lot of great musicians, but they've shifted into the world of playing at bars and playing covers, and I don't see quite as much as maybe there was 10 or 15 years ago of these original bands that are really trying to build up hard ticket history. And I think there's a big opportunity in that world for us to redevelop this scene of original music.
I do want you to slow your roll because we get a lot of our talent from Jacksonville. So if they all start working too much, it's going to be hard for us. So FYI.
We'll keep that in mind.
All right. Okay.
The opportunity that I see here, and when I popped out, I said a major gap, and I don't mean that as a negative standpoint. Jacksonville is a very large city in terms of mileage. I live all the way out. I'm on the St. John's Duval border, which is quite a drive. Okay, and the consumer doesn't want to go out Because when you go to a show, let's not lie, you're going to have a good time, right? So no one wants to, I mean, seriously, no one wants to risk driving, or they don't want the Uber bill or whatever. And there's a gap in venues, because all the venues are very essentially located either downtown. And it's always been like that, guys. I mean, years ago, there were Shades in Orange Park, that used to do a lot of concerts out there. Obviously you had the Milk Bar, you had the Edge in Arlington. There was some stuff out at the beach years ago. But a lot of that's gone away because the live music scene has kind of it dipped with the whole club scene coming in, yada, yada, yada. But I think there is opportunity here because we are not an overly saturated market like in Orlando or in Atlanta or a Miami or blah, 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 blah. And it goes on to where there's always something going on to where, you can drop things into the city and sell tickets, but it also depends on where that's occurring geographically, and then also you have to think about the demographics of where you're landing things in this city. Because let's not lie, you land stuff out in Mandarin or Fruit Cove or out in that area, do a country show, it's going to sell, and that's the reality of it. You do something at the beach, you do a rock reggae show, it's going to sell. I mean, going back to the days of Freebird, like you mentioned. The rock reggae shows at Freebird would sell out, and I mean, and it would be packed. But then you drop something else in there, and it wouldn't necessarily work because the demographic doesn't support it. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, I think that you really have to think about it. And I love what you're doing now, Niko. Niko and I go way back to when he was a musician and seeing what he's doing, and it has a business here with a talent buyer, and he gets it. And it's really cool. Seeing someone coming from grassroots from right here at home and doing it and understanding it and trying to find a way and navigate through this crazy city we live in, I will say real quick, something that I've watched is the hip hop culture in this city grow tremendously, and it's great to see because it's putting Jacksonville on the map like that instead of a Limp Bizkit or a Leonard Skinner or Yellow Card or whatever. Seeing the hip hop culture grow in the city has been amazing to watch because it's putting the city on the map in that demo, and it's great. Yeah. It's another notch in the belt. Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I think it would help for just more people like myself too. When we leave here, we come back and plant a seed. I know for me, being in the TV and film industry, like my goal is I wrote and I'm getting ready to produce a film that most of the actors are going to come out of Jacksonville. The same way I'm from here, and I ended up on the show, like I said, in a very non-traditional way. And I know that there are more people in the city that have talent just like me, or even better. They just don't have the opportunity. And so I feel like once people blow up, they don't ever come back. And I remember when I was little, and I was like, everybody, when they blow up, they don't ever come back and, shed light on who's next. So I think sometimes artists or people who get successful, they may feel like they don't have enough to start or plant the seed. But if we all get together and do it, and especially when you're successful, people are gonna reach out to you, So for me, that's what I'm doing, just to touch another person or other people to let them know that they can do it too. So.
Well, hey, thank you for that. Yeah, please, round of applause. And to your point, it's just the ecosystem to come back to as well. It has to exist, I think, for everyone to want to continue to contribute to Jacksonville as a whole. And, I think we're all, I would say, doing our part to try to make sure that we can continue to contribute to this community as well as, the ones that we're able to work with beyond here, take those experiences and bring them back to our market to help make it a better place to enjoy live music for the context of today's conversation. I don't know how much time we have left, but I would love to open up the floor for some questions if anyone is interested.
Hi, good afternoon. For someone that is really wanting to change industries and get into the entertainment industry, I came in here a little bit late, so I didn't hear what show you were referring to. What would you say is the best way for someone is being an extra, just starting out, with that, and what is your opinion of that?
I mean, being an extra is cool. Mostly the extras just make their $250 or whatever a day in the background. But if you're trying to be a principal, I feel like I said, the internet, doing skits, TikTok, going to events like this where you meet people who are in the industry that you want to get in. It's not an easy industry to get in. And prayer. My prayer life is crazy. My prayer life is crazy. So, and when I learned to manifest, and even as I said, even upon getting rap shit, when you become successful, a lot of things come at you fast, and sometimes your prayer life might not be as often as, and he gonna do some things to kind of yank you to say, okay, stop playing with me. But learn to manifest. We can speak anything that we want. You are very powerful. We are little gods in our own right. So, but yeah, networking and the internet is your friend, girl. Tag these people, DM them, even if they ignore you, keep going, keep hitting them. Oh, really?
Hustle.
Period.
Hi, I'm Felicia, and you guys said venue space 10 times, so I think this is my sign to get up here and say this, but I have an event space, and it's 3,000 square feet. It's a luxury point studio. It doubles as a production space, so if you need to shoot a video, KaMillion, you want to hold your auditions there, you totally can. But my main question was, how do we reach you? Because I definitely DM'd you before. Okay. Definitely emailed. I have a LinkedIn, but how do we reach you to get a response?
Hey, I don't see all my DMs, but when I see them, I respond, but we gonna talk today. I see you. And I see your green suit.
Awesome. That is really all the time that we have. Let's give it up for our panel. Thank you so much for your insights. Definitely, I think one of the key themes, you all can step down if you like. One of the key themes is as you're seeing them, if you're in this industry, certainly it's a great opportunity to have that conversation or to